Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Joni Sliger, and I am a Senior Policy Analyst here at the Oregon Department of Energy. We are here for a public listening session for two efforts underway pursuant to Executive Order 2529. I'm going to talk for a few minutes to explain today's meeting logistics and provide some background information, but the majority of our time today is intended for public attendees to speak and share your perspectives. Also, Odo is not going to be fact-checking comments today. We are here to listen. Please note that this meeting is being recorded. The meeting recording will be posted to Odo's webpage. So with that in mind, please be mindful of your microphone and webcam to minimize background distractions. We can mute you if need be, but we would really prefer not to have to do that. Next slide, please. If you're not familiar with the Oregon Department of Energy, or ODO, our mission is to help Oregonians make informed decisions and maintain a resilient and affordable energy system. We advance solutions to shape an equitable clean energy transition, protect the environment and public health, and responsibly balance energy needs and impacts for current and future generations. Next slide, please. Today, we are meeting virtually on the WebEx platform. If you are joining on your computer, you should see some buttons at the bottom of your screen that will be helpful later on. They will enable you to turn your microphone on and off and turn your webcam on and off. There is an option to raise your hand, either by clicking on the reactions button at the bottom of your screen or by clicking the icon next to your name if you have the participant list open. There's also a meeting chat in the bottom right. If you're joining on your phone, you can mute and unmute yourself using *6. And you can raise and lower your hand by pressing *3. Next slide, please. This is a virtual, This is a virtual meeting, so we don't have a paper sign-up sheet. If you're here and you know you want to comment, please write your name and the name of any organization you're representing in the meeting chat. After these background slides, we'll call on people who want to comment. And if you cannot use the chat or you're having technical difficulties, don't worry. We'll check in with people after these slides and before we move to public comment. And I'm going to ask my colleague Jessica to please note those instructions in the chat. All right, next slide. So let's review the ask today. I'm going to explain what Odo is seeking comments on and why. This information is all available on Odo's website. We're not going to be answering questions verbally today, but if you have questions, please put them in the chat. My coworkers here at Odo will do their best to answer your question in the chat, and we'll also consider the questions we received today to inform how and if we can improve the information that we have online. Next slide, please. So Odo has two new work streams underway. You might be here because you heard about one, you might be here because you heard about the other. I'll share more on each. Both are new directives for Odo from the Governor's Executive Order 2529. Odo needs to prepare reports and make policy recommendations, and those must go back to the Governor's office by September 1st, 2026. Next slide. One work stream is the report on siting and permitting large-scale electricity infrastructure. This report will examine the Energy Facility Siting Council's processes and seek to identify opportunities for improvement. Next slide. I want to note that comments received today will inform Odo's work under Executive Order 2529. Comments will not be considered part of the record for any active rulemaking or any facility currently under FSEC's review. If you want to comment on an active matter before FSEC, you can do so in two ways indicated here. You can submit a comment to FSEC's comment portal at the indicated link, or you can speak at the designated time during an FSEC meeting. More information is available on our website. Next slide, please. The other work stream is the report on reducing barriers to clean energy deployment. This report will examine barriers that are slowing down and even stopping clean energy facilities from being built. In particular, it'll look at projects that have gone through FSEC's process and gotten site certificates, but not moved forward. A reminder that examining why these permitted projects are not moving forward was a near-term action recommended in the energy strategy. I'm going to turn to my colleague, Hugh Arsenal, to talk about that process. Hugh.
Hey, good afternoon, y'all. As Joey mentioned, my name is Hugh, and I'm an energy policy analyst with Odo. And one of my roles with the agency is ensuring that public input received in venues like the Energy Strategies Development and today's listening session is tracked and incorporated in Odo's work. And today we wanted to, first share that a lot of the input we heard in the course of the Energy Strategies Development does pertain to the subject of the reports we'll be discussing today. We want to share that summaries of that input and documentation of the original comments are available at the links provided. And moreover, we just wanted to acknowledge that in Oregon's rapidly evolving energy environment, there are multiple venues focusing on topics that are closely related and in places overlap with subjects being discussed today or in other venues. So, Odo is really working to keep track of the input received in these forums and to make sure that it's incorporated in the relevant work streams and final products. And towards that end, I'll give a very high level summary of some of the input we heard relevant to today's discussion that we heard in the energy strategy development context. Again, this is a 10,000 mile view summary and non-exhaustive, but just want to kind of tee off a couple of the things that we had heard. Very quickly, we heard a lot of comments about permitting barriers that arise because of non-alignment of federal, state, and local environmental processes. We heard input on various land use interests, including interest in protecting high priority farmland and wildlife, as well as more specific input on things like viticulture, land designations for growing wine, and on agrivoltaics, that is the siting, the co-location of energy generation with agriculture. We heard numerous comments about financing and supply chain barriers as they relate to development, the need for early and frequent community engagement and tribal consultation, and the need for Odo to track related venues that deal with similar issues. So one that came up frequently in the energy strategy was PUC's docket UM 2111 pertaining to interconnection. And of course, now there's an AR 683 pertaining to interconnection that we are mindful of. So that's just a very quick flavor of some of the input we heard in the energy strategy. Again, that information is published on the link shown. And otherwise, I'll hand it back over to Joni.
Thanks, Hugh. Next slide, please. So you may have seen on the project web pages we have Odo's current expectations for these work streams, which is that both reports will focus on facilities that are of the type and size to be subject to FSEC review, and that the facilities will use commercially available technologies like solar, onshore wind, and short-term battery storage. We also expect the report on siting and permitting large-scale electricity infrastructure will focus on transmission facilities, but neither report is expected to focus on small-scale projects or emerging technologies or transmission corridors. The latter two of those are the focus of other Executive Order 25 work streams, but not what we're talking about today. Next slide, please. So in addition to providing oral comments today, you can also submit written comments through the comment portal on Odo's website. Comments are due by 5 p.m. on March 20th, 2026. And this is not the only opportunity to comment. There'll be a second round of public comments in the future. After this comment period ends, Odo is going to review comments and prepare draft reports to share for that second round of comment. Next slide, please. So if you go to that comment portal, you'll see Odo has provided some questions to consider. These are all optional. There's 19 of them. I'm not going to read the full text aloud, but I want to summarize them for you to consider. After asking for your name and contact information, the comment portal first asks about your interest and why you're commenting. Question 2 asks about barriers you have experienced or witnessed in the time period before FSEC's review process begins. Questions 3 through 10 all ask about barriers you've experienced or witnessed at each stage of FSEC's review process. Question 11 asks about barriers that have happened after FSEC has approved a project and issued a site certificate. Next slide, please. Questions 12 through 17 ask if there were more barriers that were not described in a prior response you've experienced. And those questions specifically ask about barriers to public participation, permitting, interconnection, and construction. Question 18 asks if you have any recommendations for the state of Oregon to act on these barriers. And finally, question 19 asks if there is anything else that you would like to share. Again, those are all optional questions that you can consider. So next slide. I promise it's almost time for public comments. A couple of reminders just for anyone just joining us now. This meeting is being recorded, so please be mindful of your audio and webcam. Today's public comments are only on the 2 Executive Order 2529 reports we described and will not be part of the record for any FSEC making or proposed project under review. Odo is not going to be verbally responding to questions or comments. This is time for you to speak. So if you have a question, we'll do our best to answer your question in the chat, and we'll also consider the questions we received today to inform if and how we can improve the information on our website. And Odo is not going to be fact-checking comments today. We are here just to listen. With that, I will hand to Jessica to go over some guidelines. Thank you.
Thanks, Joni. Hi, everybody. I'm Jessica Rikers. I'm the Technology and Policy Team Manager at Odo. We do have some guidelines for public comments. We strive here at Odo to provide a welcoming venue to hear a wide range of perspectives. So we ask that you engage in a respectful and courteous manner. My colleague Jennifer here will be helping to run a timer for us so that we can see it up on the screen when people are talking, and that's going to serve as a visual cue for speakers. And if folks run over, I will jump in and give a gentle reminder to that speaker to wrap up. We also want to foster an environment where all voices can be heard. So I'm going to be calling on speakers who have signed up to comment. In keeping with our equity and justice framework, we may take action to ensure a wide range of voices is heard by changing the order of speakers. But our goal is to provide space for everyone to speak. I'm going to prioritize speakers who've not commented before those who already have. So if I see folks who've already spoken and there's folks waiting to talk who haven't, those folks who haven't will get moved to the head of the line. And also another request is to focus on comments on the topic at hand relating to your experiences or impressions. And if you want to indicate support for something that somebody said, the chat is a great place to do that. It really helps us to be able to see where people are supporting what's going on or what's being said out there. So feel free to throw that in the chat. You could put little plus signs or you could write, I support this, whatever works for you. As a last resort, I may have to take action to address any disruptive behavior, and that could include muting a speaker or even expelling an attendee. But as Joni said before, we very much don't want to have to do this. So, Joni, are you ready to get started?
Almost. So in a moment, we'll turn to our sign-up list and start calling on people to provide comments. When it is your turn, we'll call on you to speak. And if it takes more than about 15 seconds for you to come off mute, we're going to move to the next person and then come back to you. We're going to ask everyone to please limit their comments to 2 minutes. And if time remains at the end after everyone has spoken, we'll circle back as Jessica was explaining. But before we start, I think we need to check if there's anyone who was not able to put their name in the chat. They want to raise their hand or come off mute. I actually can't see our participant list. So Jessica, you see anyone?
I am not looking for raised hands too, so give me a second. I don't see any raised hands, so I think we're in good shape.
Wonderful. All right, and I'll hand back to you, Jessica. Thank you.
Excellent. So I want to flag that as of right now, I have one person signed up. So if you do want to speak or provide comment, please add your name and organization to the chat. And if you're on the phone and the chat's just really difficult, you can hit *3 and that will raise your hand so that I can see it and then call on you when that time comes. So the person that I have signed up is Katie Chamberlain from Renewable Northwest. Katie, are you able to come off mute?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Great, thank you. Again, my name is Katie Chamberlain. I'm the regulatory manager with Renewable Northwest. We're a clean energy advocacy organization based here in Oregon, working to accelerate the transition to clean energy across the Northwest. And we're also a membership-based organization, so our members include solar, wind, and storage developers, business and industry, clean energy buyers, environmental organizations, and consumer advocates. And I really appreciate the opportunity to comment here, this listening session in particular, and also the kind of public comments that are due later in March. Renewable Northwest was deeply involved in the concept and development of the Oregon Energy Strategy, so we're really excited to see the strategy through its implementation phase. We're also encouraged by the governor's executive order, which laid out a series of directives to state agencies, as you all well know, to reduce barriers to clean energy deployment and get projects built more quickly in the state. And effective implementation of both the energy strategy and the executive order will be really critical to meeting soaring electricity demand and our state's energy policy goals. Oregon has some really ambitious targets under HB 2021, but it's increasingly difficult to actually site, permit, interconnect, and build projects in the state. And that reality challenges our ability not only to meet our energy policies under law and maintain a reliable system, but it also delays and even forgoes some significant opportunities, including family wage jobs in the clean energy economy, tax revenue for local communities, improved air quality and public health, and increased energy resilience. So we're currently working with our members who have experience developing projects at FSEC to identify specific pain points and barriers that slow or prevent clean energy development. And we plan to submit, detailed comments by March 20th. And I see my time is running out here, so I can pass it back unless there's more time to kind of get into some high level observations about the FSEC process, but leave that to you all.
Hi, Katie. You know what? I think we don't have anyone else ready to speak, so I think we'll just open it up a little bit for you to add your remaining comments. So, but if you do want to speak, please sign up in the chat and or raise your hand, either one. Thanks. Go ahead, Katie.
Great. Thanks, Jessica. Briefly, I can highlight some kind of observations about the FSEC process. And again, we'll follow this up with more detailed comments. But I'll start by saying that we really appreciate the standards-based nature of the FSEC process. An FSEC review is incredibly thorough and provides predictability for project developers. That said, I think there are some challenges to the process as well that could be reviewed and improved through this undertaking. First, FSEC review can take several years to complete, which adds to already long development timelines. We really appreciate the work already underway to scrutinize the site certificate amendment process and urge more progress here to kind of rationalize when an amendment is required. Second, I think, ODO plays a really significant role in interpreting Oregon's land use system, and there's always a tension between citing clean energy projects and existing land uses. And this is especially true, given that the energy system is not fully acknowledged in Oregon's land use system. And we see this as a barrier that shows up in the FSEC land use determination process. And third, and finally, as Oregon, looks to expand and modernize its transmission system, including new builds, upgrades, and reconductoring to kind of maximize the use of the system, having a centralized review home is pretty helpful, especially for these projects that cross multiple jurisdictions. And so, we encourage FSEC to look at how it's involved in this and how it can centralize many of these projects that have these broad system benefits. But with that, I'll stop my comments. We really look forward to providing some more detailed evaluation of existing practices along with recommendations. And thanks so much for the opportunity.
Thanks, Katie. We appreciate the comments. I want to just flag for folks that we are here until 2 o'clock, and I don't see anybody else who wants to talk. But we really would love to hear people's experiences, understand better what, what your interactions in the clean energy deployment and siting process have, the things that you've experienced. It would be really informative to the work that Joni and others on my team will be working on, and as well as our siting division. So I just want to flag that if you want to speak, go ahead and raise your hand or put your name and organization in. Otherwise, I'm going to do a long, awkward silence to see if anybody takes us up and says, oh, good. I'm so glad, Max. I stretched my time just long enough. I see that Max Yoklik, and I apologize if it's Yoklich or something else, from New Sun Energy would like to speak. So Max, can you come off mute?
Sure. Can you hear me?
I can. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you so much for holding this listening section. My name is Max Yoklik. I'm in-house counsel for New Sun Energy. And New Sun primarily does county permitting process, but I've done a lot of FSEC permitting work previously when I was working in a law firm. So really appreciate the opportunity to share some comments with you. And I guess the first thing is that I'm really hoping that the Department of Energy will work with the Department of Land Conservation and Development to continue analyzing where there are opportunities to site facilities in relation to the existing thresholds for Goal 3 exception on agricultural land. You've probably heard before that that's one of the primary development restrictions for renewable energy facilities in the state of Oregon. And I think there are a lot of ways to tackle that. DLCD, as you likely know, held a very long rulemaking advisory committee process to update those rules over the last few years, and they did eventually adopt a rule. But unfortunately, it had an opt-out process for counties, and the majority of counties with larger amounts of proposed development opted out of using the new expedited pathway, which provided some ways to kind of allow renewable energy facilities to be sited while avoiding, minimizing, and mitigating negative effects. And the concept was that you could obtain a permit without a goal exception if you did certain things, if you avoided certain lands, if you avoided certain wildlife, cultural resources, if you engaged with the community, if you did agricultural mitigation funding, community benefits funding, that type of thing. So I guess it's not purely within the Department of Energy's lane, but I think as part of a statewide energy strategy, it's really important for ODO and FSEC to coordinate with DLCD to review how that process works and see where the opportunities may be to look at some of those locations where Goal 3 exception is required purely out of, old statutory requirements. So one thing, for example, is viticultural areas, and these very large viticultural area designations over vast swaths of the gorge counties, which the majority of which have no viticulture, right? So it's this statutory requirement designating it as high value farmland under ORS 195-300, despite the fact that the land isn't actually used that way. Another example is, looking at soil classifications and the fact that the state statute defines certain lands based purely on soil classification rather than what the land is actually being used for. So, potentially accepting reports from soil scientists that did on-the-ground studies to determine what the actual soils are, and if they proved that the soil was not as it is listed on a GIS program that NRCS maintains, well, then that would be good evidence to say that it isn't in fact qualified for this certain designation. So those are just a couple of things. The other thing is similar, but in a different vein. I'd really hope to see that the Department of Energy coordinate with ODFW, which I know that you do a lot, but I think there are still some open questions around wildlife protection. So I know ODFW has been working on new migratory corridors. I believe that they're public now, but ensuring that those migratory corridors are included and updated on ERISA, for example. I think there's also still a little bit uh, there's a little bit of vagueness around the sage grouse rules. So ODFW and DLCD just adopted new sage grouse rules last year or the year before. And I think how those rules are implemented, especially in relation to buffers from low density habitat, is still a little bit confusing to developers. So I think there's some cross-agency coordination that could really help developers identify lower conflict sites, which is what we're already trying to do in the first place. And so I think that as part of overall permitting, some of that cross-agency engagement would be really helpful in terms of figuring out how to help developers pick the right locations in the first place and minimize conflicts. Thank you.
Thanks, Max. Appreciate that. I see that we have someone who joined by phone. So if you are the person that joined by phone and you want to provide comment, you can raise your hand online virtually by pressing *3, and we're happy to add you into the comment section. I do not currently have anybody else signed up to provide comment right now. If you want to do so, you can raise your hand, or you can put your name and affiliation in the chat and I will call on you. But if not, I'm just going to allow a little bit of awkward silence to see if anybody else wants to join in. This is where Joni and I will ask folks, if you do have something that you want to say, we really would appreciate it. This listening session is really important for us as we start to formulate draft information that we can share with the public about what the barriers are to clean energy deployment and what options there are to streamline the siting process. So this is kind of a critical moment. So if you're kind of on the fence, I would encourage you to speak up so we can have what you're thinking to add to our information. Joni, there's a question in the chat, and since we're paused on comments right now, maybe you could help shed some light on this. Sarah Buckwalter at PGE asked, the comments you're requesting on March 20th will inform both the clean energy deployment and large-scale electricity infrastructure reports.
Thank you for the question, Sarah. Yes, we did a combined comment portal. So you can submit any comments there on either or both reports. They'll be considered for both. Thank you.
Any other process questions folks have that we could help answer? I just want to make sure that the person who called in on the phone, if you do have comments and it's hard for you to get your name and affiliation in the chat. If you want to just come off mute, we would have space to listen to what you have to tell us as well.
Jessica, feel free to interrupt me. I'll just remind everyone, we publicly noticed this meeting for 1 to 2 today, and we have another listening session later from 5 to 6. Odo is going to stay here. We know people's schedules can be busy and there's a lot going on, so people may join later during this call. But as I said at the beginning, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on our website.
Thanks, Jenny, for that feedback, for that information. Maybe you could share with folks the timeline again for when comments are due.
Yeah, the comment portal is currently up and open, and we're asking for written comments by 5 p.m. on March 20th.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So I will again come begging for information. I'm just curious if anybody who's listening in right now has some experiences they would like to share about any barriers they encountered while working on getting a clean energy project built during the siting process, anything that they think would be useful for us to understand. Jenny, you want to throw that last slide back up again? Might spark some interest from folks, ideas from folks.
I actually wasn't screen sharing. Edith, do you still have the slide deck? Might be a little more clear for others reviewing the recording later. Thank you.
Well, Edith's bringing that up. I'll just throw a pitch out that if you are talking to other folks interested in this, if you could share with them that this process is happening, encourage them to also provide comments to us. I think that as much as we try to message the projects that we're working on like this, word of mouth is also really helpful to ensure that we get as many different interests and perspectives as we possibly can before we start working on sort of some draft language around this.
While we wait here, see if anyone else would like to comment. I was going to ask my colleague Ruchi, we have a customer service survey that we'd appreciate your input on. So I'm going to ask Ruchi if she can put that in the chat for anyone who joined today and maybe might decide to drop off early. We will be here, but if you could please fill out that survey, we do appreciate the input. Also, if you would like to receive email notifications about the future comment opportunities, you can sign up on Odo's website. And if any questions arise, you can reach out to us.
So I think that I'll make one more pitch for anybody who wants to provide comment to throw your name and affiliation in the chat or raise your hand and I'll call on you. But otherwise, Joni and I are going to hang out here for maybe the next 4 or 5 minutes or so and wait to see if anybody wants to say anything. So you can stare at our faces for a little bit in awkward silence, but we really would love to hear from you if you do want to contribute. Hi, I'm Jessica Rikers. I am the manager of the technology and policy team here at Odo. And I see someone just joined. I just wanted to let you know that we are interested in hearing any public comments that folks might want to make. So if you would like to speak, throw your name and affiliation in the chat. You can access the chat by hitting the little thought bubble that's down in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. Or you could raise your hand to speak in the chat if you want to. Otherwise, Jenny and I are sitting here waiting to see if anybody does have anything they want to say. So it's a little quiet, but we are here to listen if somebody wants to comment.
right. We've got just 1 minute left in our hour here together. So if you joined today to share your comments, thank you. We appreciate hearing your perspective. And we look forward to reviewing comments submitted by the comment deadline of 5 p.m. on March 20th, 2026. If you'd like to receive email notifications about future comment periods, you can sign up on Odo's website. And if you have questions, please contact us. But thank you so much for joining.